Hey everyone, and welcome back. So we'll be taking a look today at the new Nintendo Switch games for this week. Now I know this video is late, but it was done on purpose. When I was prepping the original video on Tuesday, the Indie World got announced and I decided to wait till the showcase came out. That way I could include any shadow drops for this week and really have a better, more complete list. And I'm really glad I did because we got 3 great little shadow drops. So now let's jump into the video. Just remember, if you are liking the content, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. So let's actually start with the shadow drops from the Indie World Showcase. All these games will have the release date of August 7th, and I'll be going through the pricing as we talk about each game. Also, as usual, all regional equivalents will be on the screen. And the first game that got shadow dropped is Tiny Bookshop, with a sales price of $19.99. Now this game describes its gameplay as leaving everything behind and opening up a tiny bookshop by the sea in this cozy narrative management game. You'll need to stock your tiny bookshop with different books and items, set up shop in scenic locations, and run your cozy secondhand bookshop while getting to know the locals. Now this game does look like a pretty cozy management life sim. But I've got to say that the graphics do look pretty appealing for this type of gameplay, and I love the setup that this is a mobile bookshop moving from location to location. There also seems to be some slight story elements mixed in, which will definitely help getting engaged in the game. Now I'm going to warn that the cozy management sim is going to be a sort of theme for this week, but if you're in the market for this kind of game, Tiny Bookshop should definitely be a consideration.
Well, it's not just a dream anymore. Because Tiny Bookshop...
Our next shadow drop for this indie world was Is This Seat Taken? That is going to be selling for $9.99. Now this game describes its gameplay as your mission is to organize groups of people according to their preference. It's a cozy, no pressure logic game where you're in charge of who sits where. And personally, I said it during the Indie World, I really love these simple puzzle games. They're great games to pick up and play a little bit before bed to wind down. And this one definitely has an original premise with some pretty simple yet appealing graphics. My biggest question mark for this one is how long is the gameplay and how many puzzles do you have overall to be worth that $10 price point. These are hopefully answers we'll get after a review or two, but I do think that this one is definitely one to also keep on your radar.
Sit back, relax, and find the perfect spot for everyone in Is This Seat Taken?
And our last shadow drop for the Indie World Showcase was the biggest game, I would say, of the whole showcase, UFO 50, that is going to be selling for $24.99. And in this game, you get to explore a collection of 50 single and multiplayer games that span a variety of genres, from platformers, shoot-em-ups to puzzle games, roguelikes, and even RPGs. As you journey through the library, you'll make connections and learn more about UFOsoft, the fictional 80s company behind the games, as well as their expansive shared universe that includes sequels and recurring characters. Overall, if you're looking for a no-fail game for this week, I do think this is definitely going to be your choice. Personally, I really couldn't wait for a Switch release for this game to finally play it, and we'll actually be streaming it Friday night. So if you want to check it out for yourself, join us on the stream. It'll be a little bit later than usual, around 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, but I hope I'll see you there. Next, let's jump into the Nintendo Switch 2 releases for this week, and we've got 2 games launching, with the first one being Apex Legends, a free download available starting on August 5th. Now this game is an online multiplayer battle royale where you need to form up in squads and basically try to be the last team standing. It's based around rapid gunplay and very fast and fluid movements. We also did already have a Nintendo Switch 1 version of the game, but to be honest, the resolution and visual quality was really subpar for a competitive online shooter, which is why it's so important that we're now getting a Nintendo Switch 2 edition. There is one thing, however, I would want to warn, is that if this is your first time jumping into Apex Legends, the skill ceiling is now very high in the game. So your first experiences with it might be crushing ones. However, now thanks to this visually better version of the game on Nintendo Switch 2 and the new multiplayer options with the console, I do think it's going to make the game an overall much better experience.
Build your crew and aim for victory when Apex Legends launches on the Nintendo Switch 2.
Now, our second game for Nintendo Switch 2 is Madden 2026, the deluxe edition that is available starting on August 7th and will be selling for $99.99. Now, first of all, I do want to say it is pretty fun to see that we're now getting the modern version of the sports games on the Nintendo consoles once again, because they had skipped out on the Nintendo Switch 1 for quite a few years. And if you're looking for NFL football simulators, well, you've pretty much got no other options than the Madden franchise. However, on the flip side, I do want to mention that since it's pretty much a monopoly in the environment, EA hasn't been maybe investing as much quality into the franchise as they should be. So although I am glad we're finally getting the games, it is one of those franchises that is starting to feel like a cash grab. Not to mention that to actually play the game this week and not wait till the 14th where the regular edition of the game releases, you have to pay an extra $30, which does give you the 7-day early access and some other advantages like 4,600 MUT points and a Superstar Legendary XP boost to get you started. But as I said, those are all things that are feeling more and more like cash grabs. Nonetheless, if you absolutely want to play the game as soon as possible, it will be available starting this week.
Choose from 3 new archetypes to begin your coaching legacy, or become your favorite NFL coach.
Now we jump into the Nintendo Switch 1 games with Turbo Kid that released on August 5th for $19.99. Now this game describes itself as a true Metroidvania gore fest, where you play as a lone warrior on a quest to cross a wasteland riddled with scoundrels and creeps who you'll have to go through literally in order to survive. Now if you've never seen it before, this game is actually set up as the direct sequel to the Turbo Kid movie. And if you're into pixel art Metroidvanias, this looks like one that's going to be offering a really great and original experience. A quick shout out to Alex over at Switch Corner, who already put out a review on the game, and I know he pretty much loved it. So I'm pretty confident that at $19.99, if you're looking for a gory Metroidvania experience, you're going to be getting a great game here at that price. Now another game that also released on August 5th is Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba, the Hinokami Chronicles 2, that is selling for $59.99. Now this game is actually based on the Demon Slayer anime and follows the storyline elements to a T. And it's a direct follow-up to the first game that's also available on Nintendo Switch. And in this entry, you'll be reliving the events of the Entertainment District arc, the Swordsmith Village arc, and the Hashira Training arc from the TV anime. Now these games are generally set up as 3D arena battlers, and they're really geared towards fans of the anime. Not only that, but the game is also offering a VS mode with over 40 playable characters. Now my comments are pretty much all the same for these anime tie-ins. I do find that the $60 price point is a little high for these. I generally recommend waiting for a sale and trying to pick it up around the 50% mark. But if you're dying to relive the elements and you are a huge fan of the series, I'm pretty sure this one's going to be a really solid pickup for this week.
How would you like it if someone barged into your home and messed with your food?
Stop wriggling for a second!
Now we're jumping over to August 7th, which will have quite a few releases, and our first one is going to be Gradius Origins that will be releasing for $39.99. Now this is a retro shoot 'em up collection that features 18 versions across 7 different arcade titles in the series. It also features the first ever appearance of Gradius 3, the AM show version on home consoles. Not only that, but it's also promising a variety of helpful new features that have been added to the games, including save states, a rewind feature, and an invincible mode. Basically, the Gradius series is one of the oldest and most classic shoot 'em up series out there. And if you're a fan of that style of arcade gameplay, I definitely recommend checking this one out once a few reviews come out, just to make sure that there's no input delay or anything like that in this version. But if they end up being solid ports for 7 different games and 18 versions overall, I do think this is a fair asking price. Now our next game for today is going to be Ritual of Raven, also releasing on August 7th, selling for $19.99. Now this game describes itself as a cozy story-based farming sim, but you don't do the farming yourself. Instead, you collect and enchant arcana constructs to grow your magical herb garden. Now, the main gameplay elements here seem to be enchanting your Arcana constructs, which you have 22 different ones to collect, meeting and interacting with your neighbors in a life sim style game, learning different magical abilities that will help you in harvesting your garden, and finally decorating your environment and collecting different collectibles throughout the game. Now, we do have a lot of farming life sims on the Nintendo Switch, however, this one is once again offering what seems to be a pretty original twist. Not to mention that it's being published by Team 17 that generally releases some pretty solid games. Now, the release price of $20 is pretty fair for the genre, however I would have liked to see this one more around the $15 mark given how competitive it is. But nonetheless, if you're looking for something new in the genre, I would keep my eyes on this one. Now, before making your choice, however, we have another game in the sort of life sim genre to look at with Fruit Bus that's also releasing on August 7th and will also be selling for $19.99. Now, this game describes itself as a cute culinary adventure set in an open world where taste is everything. You'll need to upgrade your trusty truck and visit a whole world of new destinations together, discovering fresh fruits and vegetables on each new island, where you'll need to learn their customs and cook meals that will make someone's day. And the main elements here seem to be upgrading your fruit bus, foraging in the wilds for new fruits and vegetables, refining your recipes, and finally, making a following of loyal customers. So this game is more like a life sim meets cooking simulator management sim. And if you're the kind of person that enjoys those cooking mini games, I definitely think this game looks like it's going to be offering, once again, a really original and fun experience. I would, however, maybe wait for a review or two to see how this one runs and if the experience is worth the investment. But I do have a good feeling about this one. Hopefully, it'll shape up. Our next game that we're going to be taking a look at for today is going to be The Edge of Allegoria, once again releasing on August 7th, this one having a sales price of $24.99. Now, this game describes its experience as getting ready to travel far and wide to take on creatures of all shapes and sizes in a classic turn-based fashion, all the while discovering the secrets and adventures that Allegoria has in store. You'll also have to harvest the body parts of your adversaries for financial gain and personal satisfaction, level up to strike down even greater foes, and finally arm yourself with more weapons and equipment than any sane person should. Now, this game is done in the classic Game Boy fashion and seems to have a very strong Pokemon-influenced visual design. However, minus the Pokemon. Personally, I'm a sucker for Game Boy style games, and I have a sneaking suspicion that this one will be offering a really awesome retro experience. However, given the higher price point, I would definitely wait for a couple of reviews for this one, but if you're into the genre, once again, keep an eye on this one. Now, next, still releasing on August 7th, we have Slope Crashers that will be selling for $17.99. Now, this game describes itself as an easy-to-play, exhilarating-to-master snowboarding mayhem game with a chaotic cast of customizable animal riders. Inspired by arcade racing classics but powered by next-gen physics engines, Slope Crashers takes racing stunts and combos to the extreme. Now, this game I remember being featured in one of these summer showcases, and it's looking like it's offering a pretty fun experience. But I do definitely think that it's tailored towards more of a party game because it's made to be played with up to 8 friends. And it has a very casual feel to the gameplay, meaning that I think this is all about having some wacky fun with the gameplay and not necessarily being a super serious competitive game. The good news as well is that since it's being sold for under $20, it also sort of makes sense for that type of audience. Now, once again, I would wait to see how this one actually plays and performs on the Nintendo Switch 1, especially in that 4-player split screen that it's promising. However, if it's offering a smooth frame rate, or maybe on the Nintendo Switch 2, I think this one could be a really fun pickup for this week. Now, our last game for August 7th and our before last game overall is going to be the House of the Dead 2 remake that is going to be selling for $24.99. Now this game is a remake of the classic arcade light gun game, and I was actually a pretty big fan of the remake of the first one, even though the motion controls are definitely not the best. If you take the game seriously and competitively, obviously those motion controls will annoy you, but if you take it as just a fun time to play with a friend, I really think these games can be a ton of fun. Now, I do think that one of the biggest elements for the game is once again going to be that control scheme that can either be refined even further than the first game and maybe make it an even better experience, or it might come out with the same faults as the first game. Either way, I still had to highlight this game coming out for this week, and I think it's just one of those games that either you'll be into it or you won't. And last but not least, we have Tori Saturn releasing on August 8th for a budget price of only $4.99. Now this game describes itself as a speed-based 3D platformer featuring a round bird with sunglasses and a backpack. And I've got to say, that's pretty much spot on. Now if you've never played a game in the Tori series before, I definitely recommend them if you're into 3D platformers. They're visually very retro, but their execution is excellent. Not only that, but their prices are unbeatable, offering a really fun experience for a budget price. So that was pretty much it for the top Switch and Switch 2 releases for this week. It was quite a list to go through. Let me know in the comments down below which game was your favorite and which you might be picking up for this week. On the way out, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you aren't already.